You all join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? Those who are here for the first time, what brings you here? Yeah?
I've been here a long time ago, but at least for a different religion.
Well, welcome back. Yeah, we switch it up on you every so often just to confuse you, you know? Yeah.
But I always thought this was a beautiful space.
It is the space. It's got nothing to do with anything other than the space. Truly. 98 years old. Christian mystics for 90 plus years were in this space. They built it in 1927. We bought it 8 years ago, and we've been restoring it ever since. Yeah, but they did an amazing job taking care of this place. And Christian mystics were, which I came to find out through this process, tied very closely with Buddhist teachings. Emanuel Swedenborg, who was the founder of this tradition, he lived, 1740, somewhere around there. 200 years later, D.T. Suzuki, who's a Japanese Zen priest and author, in the 20s and 30s, roughly 40s, somewhere in there, wrote a book titled, he said, all you Westerners, if you want to learn about Buddhist practice, you should read the teachings of Emanuel Swedenborg from 200 years earlier. And the book was, there was a book titled Swedenborg, Buddha of the North, that D.T. Suzuki wrote. So after 10 years at downtown and then 10 years at Buddha for You in the college area, we were looking for a place to consolidate things. And this place popped up on the market. And the church, the Swedenborgian community, never registered it historic. So developers were going to purchase it, buy it, tear it down, and turn it into condos. And yeah, it's fun building community because most of you, like, quick show of hands, how many of you are even remotely familiar with this story? Probably like 5 of you in this room. Yeah, maybe 8 or so. That's the cool thing is, like, you know, most people in here, I mean, we take it for granted because I've been living in this every single day for 18 years. So I've, you know, even every single step of the way the last 8 years. But yeah, this would have been condos. Developers would have bought it, leveled it, and, you know, you'd be sitting in somebody's shower right now, probably. But yeah, so here we are. Community came together in a way unlike anything I've ever seen. It was the most incredible experience to be part of this community and support it. And April was 8 years that we moved in here. Yeah, April 15, 2017, we walked in here. But when we walked in here at the end of 2016, the space, the way this place feels when people come into it, that was here. We didn't create it, right? We didn't make it feel this way. It's not because of us Buddhists. It's not because of the Dharma Bums. We opened it up. We just put life into it, put a couple Buddhas up, let some people in, but said it was like a plant that was dying. It just needed water, needed some love, some sun, some air. That was it. And 8 years later, you are all what makes this place amazing. It's every single person that's walked through this place for the last 98 years or coming up on. When you walk out, if you didn't see it, the plaque there on the wall, the what do they call that? The marble marker. There's a name for it. Say again? Keystone. There you go. Yeah. What is it? Keystone something or just Keystone? What? Cornerstone? No, it's Keystone. Is there a second word after that or just Keystone? Yeah, Keystone. We'll go Keystone. I heard that initially. But yeah, the old buildings had like keystones that marked it. So you'll see out there, it says Church of New Jerusalem, 1927 on that marble plaque out there. Really amazing. And so that's, 98 years of people that have walked through these doors. The pews you're sitting on, those have been sitting there for 95 years. The floor, 98 years. Actually, the pews probably 98 years too. I just gave them a couple years to figure out they needed pews. I don't know. But yeah, incredible amounts of people. I mean, millions of people have come through these doors in the last 98 years. Pretty wild.
Does the organ still work?
The organ still works. Yeah. Not so well. It needs some tuning. About 6 months in, we had our first wedding here. And the person who was going to do the music was stuck in traffic in LA. And so somebody turned to me and they said, "Jeff, does the organ work?" I said, "It does." And then they announced, "Anyone here know how to play the organ?" And so the first wedding that we had in here was with the organ. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I mean, I felt bad for the person stuck in traffic from LA, but for us, it was kind of cool. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really, to me, just. Anyone seen the movie The Red Violin? I think it's called The Red Violin. Yeah, Red Violin. You think of the life that this violin, the lives that it's touched. I mean, to me, that's how I see this space every single day. We're just in here right now, And people say the Dharma Bums, the nonprofit owns this. We don't own it. I mean, we do own it, but we don't own it. It owns us. We're just caretakers for the space. If we can give it love for 100 years, we're just trying to take care of a space. That's all of us. That's all we do. We're just temporary here. We're all going to be dead and gone, and this space will still be here. So, yeah, we hope, right? So, yeah. So, welcome to your first time. Little history lesson there on this space. All right. So we're going to start with the meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, glad you're here. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. When you don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. If you're in a bench or chair, however you're seated, just trying to sit up straight. Hands are on the knees or lap. Most important, especially if you're new, you're not going to shut your mind off. You're not going to go blank. You're not going to think nothing. Your mind will race. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought, or wake you up because you have fallen asleep. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, feel them fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound. Each thought. each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, and most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. And Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around you or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, and disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't necessarily fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can make changes in your life. This practice is direct perception into the present moment. And the present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. This is life. That's what we get. We spend so much time trying to fix, change, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us. Hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they do this, wishing they would do that. So much of our time is spent on what others are doing. And I'm not suggesting that we ignore what others are doing. That's incredibly dangerous. Pay attention. But that's not this practice. This practice is, what are you doing? What are your thoughts? What are your words? And what are your actions? So then when you do engage with the world, you come from a place of loving kindness and compassion, not from hatred and anger, not from a sense of entitlement or judgment or arrogance, but from a place of humility, because you realize you have done, and when I say you, I mean me, tremendous harmful things in your life. You have harmed others. You have caused others pain. You have created situations that cause suffering. And so as you sit and you critique and judge and label everybody else for being so terrible, you recognize that you too have caused harm. We're no better than anybody else. We've had different experiences. We live different lives. We make different choices. We have different privileges. Can you become aware of that? Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, and learning to become aware of everything you think, everything you say, and everything you do, and how all of your thoughts and words and actions play out in your day-to-day life. That's it. And that just goes on repeat every day. until you die. This is not a 6-week course. It's not 3 months and then you got it and you're on to the next. That's not how Buddhist practice works. Sadly, that's how a lot of people see it. I've been around this practice a long time, and 6 months in, a year in, people are like, I got it. I understand. You don't. You really don't. And when I say you don't, I'm talking about me. I don't. So you continue to practice. Every day you will be challenged. Every day you will face difficulty. Every day people will do things that piss you off. How do you respond? That's the practice. That's never going to change. Until eventually you just stop getting pissed off and you realize people are just people. They're doing what they do. And if you see yourself no different than them, then you're no longer pissed off. And then you can work from that place. So with that, I'll pause. Really prefer to respond to questions anyways. Meditation, Buddhist practice. To those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Feel free to say hello. And if you have questions, you can put them on the chat box there, and I'll do my best to respond, and we'll use the rest of our evening time this evening for questions.
I see some similarities at times between meditation and hypnosis. Is that, am I confusing or?
So the question was, you see some similarities sometimes between meditation and hypnosis, and are you confused, or is there want some clarity around that? Like many things, I've not experienced hypnosis, so I really can't speak to that. But my general idea of hypnosis, without having gone through it, so keep that in mind, is I can tell you what meditation is. And meditation is about waking up to the present moment and seeing reality as it is with a fully clear mind. It's why the Buddhist precepts around refraining from intoxicants, often people modern day just kind of jump to like, don't do drugs, don't do alcohol, which, that's probably going to cause pain and suffering. But my point is that we think it's just about that. But the reason that we were to refrain from intoxicants as the teaching was ultimately the teaching was anything that alters your state of mind. So to cultivate loving kindness and compassion, to come from a place of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, all those kind of key buzzwords that you hear, it's with a clear, settled mind. And lots of things take us away from that. So again, never done hypnosis. Can hypnosis be probably incredibly beneficial for therapy and many other uses, as it's used? I'm sure it can. But, the little bit that I know of it, I think it's very different. Yeah. Which, like I said, doesn't mean it can't be incredibly beneficial.
No,
Yeah. What else?
We do a lot of breath meditation here. Okay, we do metta as well. Is there another meditation that you ever did that you really liked?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No.
No. Didn't think so.
Yeah, no. I mean, but to expand on it a little bit, just to give it a larger context, the question for those who didn't hear it was, we do breath meditation here. We do metta, which is loving kindness. Are there any meditations other than that, for me, that I liked? That was your question. The reason I said no is that, I've done, well, let me back up even further, just for those who may be here for the first time. There's thousands of different types of meditations, as you know. And I'm not a fan of necessarily thinking that one of them is right or wrong or good or bad, right? I mean, if they're not causing harm, right. if they're not causing harm to yourself and others and they're beneficial to you, then, wonderful. If people tell you that this is the way and the only way to meditate, that to me is a big red flag. But again, this is for anybody who's newer to this stuff. There's so many types of meditations out there. Try them. See if they're beneficial for you. If they help you be a kinder, gentler, happier person, then by all means do it. If it doesn't resonate with you, then abandon it and click to the next YouTube link. They're truly, they're endless, and so I think it's important first and foremost that we cultivate a daily meditation practice, whatever that practice is. I think that's important. And I don't mean 20 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour. Just sit for 5 minutes every day. That's it. 5 minutes. People struggle constantly with talking about meditation practice. And so often it's because they have these goals like that they need to sit for 20 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour. And it has to be a certain way in a certain place with certain things. Nothing but your crazy mind is all you need. If you can sit, sit. If you can stand, stand. If you can walk, walk. As the Buddha said, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, or reclining. Any way that you can concentrate and focus for 5 minutes, do that. Doesn't matter how or where. But to specifically the question, even within Buddhism, there's so many different types of practices. For me, Zen practice, which is the breath, shamatha, what I was introduced to. And for me individually, the idea of guided meditations and loving kindness meditations and all the words, I never shut up my whole life, been kicking and screaming and yelling my whole life. So the last thing I wanted to do was do a meditation where there's just more yapping. To me, I'm just talking about for me. That's why the silence, I'm not a big fan of his writing specifically, but there's a book out there, Brad Warner, a Zen practitioner for many years, spent a lot of time in Japan, I believe. And the book title is Sit Down and Shut Up. And for me, that was what I needed. I didn't need more people telling me loving kindness stuff. I needed to sit down and shut up, because when I sit down and shut up, when you sit down and shut up, what are you left with? You. What have you spent your whole life running from? You. So while metta, loving kindness meditation, and Tonglen practices and all kinds of guided meditations are gentle and loving and kind and might make you feel good and relax and help you get through tough times, that's wonderful. But at the root of all of that is you. And so for me, the best way to get to know the craziness was to sit down and shut up and listen to it. And then to become friends with it. And then know that that's not me. Those are just random thoughts passing through my head based on random experiences, a trillion years of a trillion experiences. And could I recognize that that's not me? Because forever my thoughts I identified as me. So the root of Buddhist suffering comes from the attachment to sense of self. No better way to get, as Dogen says, you have to get to know the self before you can get rid of the self. Get to know yourself. All the shit, all the stuff you've been running from forever, sit with that. Day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. You'll be like, wow, that's a mess. I'm talking about me, not you. I just, I know. But, and then you become friends with that, and then you realize that's an illusion. That's the practice. So that's why it resonated with me. And I felt has been, beyond words beneficial to my life. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
Requires a backstory. So a couple weeks ago, my ex-wife went scorched earth with her life one more time. And there's a lot of fallout. There's a lot of collateral damage, including two of our young adult kids. And then by extension, a bunch of other people, Stephanie and I included, right? We're drug into the mess necessarily. And the two kids are in rough shape. One of them's in real trouble. And so we're navigating this. Stephanie leaned over and said, do you have a question about that? And I thought, no, I don't. And I have 1,000. But what I've been sitting with is the idea of coexisting with inevitable suffering, right? Big stuff.
Yeah.
In a moment like this, and I find that I can get comfortable in the practice I can get really uncomfortable outside of the practice.
Mhm.
So the question, there's really no question. The thing that comes to mind is that coexistence with big inevitable suffering, and your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I think everybody heard it and you're close enough to the camera, but I love Instagram, and I love it for all the reels that are there, because it can be like 5 to 10 to 20 seconds of just brilliance. It can also be just 5 to 10 to 20 seconds to 8 hours of an absolute waste of time. It just depends on how you hook your algorithm up and what you look at it, right? And I saw one, I want to read it exactly. I'll show it to you after. Let me see if I can find it here real quick, because it sums up exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so it's a picture of and this isn't meant to make light of any sort of natural disaster tragedies, but it's a picture of a person in kind of a rain like jacket thing on a park bench. And the park bench is covered in water up to about his chest, as is everything in the entire picture, right? Everything is covered in water. So tremendous flood, right? And the line says, when everything goes wrong, but you're already used to it. And I found that to be an incredibly beautiful Buddhist teaching, because while it sucks to say that one is used to things going wrong, the Buddha said the first thing he said is life is filled with what? Suffering. So to me, getting used to suffering doesn't mean that we have to like it. It doesn't mean that we're like, yay, more suffering. It means that we're doing, to me, exactly what I heard you say, which is coexisting with it. Whatever happened, without any details, because you know how much I don't want those, and I appreciate you not sharing them, but enough to make sense. What a mess. And you got two choices: to make a mess better or worse. That is the only thing. I mean, there's some things you can control in certain situations, but that is ultimately what it comes down to. And your ability to sit, to coexist, as you say, to be with the mess, that's the practice. The mess is it's never going away. It will keep coming. Once you move through this one, which you will, no matter how many difficult challenges and hurdles you have to get through and how many people pain and suffer from it, there will be a time where this will subside to some extent. And I'm sure there'll be ripple effects and, some collateral damage, as you say. You said that, right? You said, yeah. And then that'll settle a bit. And then there'll be something else. And maybe this will cycle through again, as I think you said at the beginning, again. So but by used to it, you learn to be with it. It doesn't impact you. And to me, that's what that image shows, is that it's not impacting this individual. It sucks to have so much pain and suffering and death and loss and trauma around us. But can we be, to me, that's the practice of equanimity. The 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 foundation of mindfulness: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Can you be at ease and steady and at peace and coexist with the madness? Because the alternative is what? You become the madness. And that's what you desperately and deeply are trying to avoid, which is beautiful. But as you know, and I'm saying this more for everybody, there is no Buddhist teaching that's going to be like, that's good, right? No, it sucks. But that is your opportunity to practice and be with it. And there's no solution other than being with the misery and taking care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, then others get to deal with you not taking care of yourself, right? And I'm guessing that's not the best situation, right? So take care of you the best you can, and then show up to the best of your ability with kindness and compassion and love in your heart for all the people around you who are also suffering from this. You know, try not to make the fire worse. Can't always put it out, but don't need to add more flames, you know? Yeah. What else? Yeah.
I have two questions. One, if you use meditation to introspect and understand your state of mind. And second, what is the difference of using mantra?
What is the difference of what? The second part?
Using mantra.
Oh, mantra. So the first part, just to repeat so I make sure I understood it correctly. The first question was, can you or should you use meditation for introspection? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And second part is, in essence, the purpose of mantras, right? So the first part, kind of similar to my answer earlier, with there being so many different types of meditation. Yes, a lot of people will tell you use meditation as a way to ponder stuff, to figure stuff out, for introspection. To me, you know what that is? Thinking. And to me, meditation is not about thinking. That's my personal practice. Meditation for me as a practitioner is about being in the present moment, going beyond thinking. Again, as Dogen called it. Dogen lived from 1200 to 1253, the founder of what's called the Soto Zen school. And he would talk about beyond thinking. Let me give you an example of why, for me, I don't practice that. But millions of people will tell you, yes, use that because it'll be beneficial. But they can all tell you that. I'll just tell you what I practice, which is as I'm sitting and breathing, breath in, breath out, thought arises. And I've been doing this practice every day for 22 years. Long time, right? And my mind is still a mess. I've figured nothing out. I've understood nothing. And I'm not just saying that to be humble or a smart ass. Like, my mind is as much of a mess as it was 30 years ago when I first got introduced to this stuff, right? What I'm working on, breath in, breath out, thought arises, hunger, recognize it, release it, back to breath. Breath in, breath out, hunger, recognize it, release it, back to breath. So I'm working on recognizing and seeing literally every single thought as it arises, letting it pass by coming back to sensation of breath. What I don't want to do, thought arises, hunger. I'm hungry. What do I want to eat? I want a burrito. I want Pokies. I want chips. I want sauce. Next thing you know, I'm sitting here for 5 minutes thinking about a burrito I want to eat. And I'm hungrier than I was 5 minutes ago, right? When our mind wanders to the past, anger, sadness, depression, very often. Like, nobody's here because they sat around thinking about all the wonderful things in their life. Let's be real. Nobody's like, my life is great. My whole life has been wonderful. I'm going to go to that Buddhist temple on a Tuesday night. It just doesn't work that way. I'm not saying everyone's life is miserable, but we don't end up in this path and in this practice because we're golden, right? So when our mind wanders to the past, anger, sadness, depression. Sadly, you've also had a lot of wonderful, beautiful things that have happened in the past, but we don't sit and think about those too often. But that's a whole nother topic. Mind wanders to the future, stress, anxiety, fear, worry, all that, panic, chaos. All this practice is concentration and focus on the present moment. If you focus on the present moment, I was trained with the breath because the breath is always with you. If you don't have the breath, you don't have to worry about it anymore. Right? Breath is always there. But you could focus on a shoe. You could focus on a bottle of water. You could focus on a candle, an incense stick, whatever. If you focus on one thing, what are you not focused on? Yourself and everything else. And when you focus on yourself and everything else, how does that tend to make you feel? How's that worked for you thus far? It got you here, right? So focusing on everything else doesn't work so well for me. I want to set everything else down and abide in present moment with sensation of breath. End of story. That's, to me, training the mind. I do not use meditation as an escape. I do not use meditation to figure things out. I do not use meditation for introspection. To me, that's thinking. And I've done enough of that my whole life. I use meditation to set that down. Now, after meditation, you ever been really angry and tried to figure something out?
You know.
Never?
I mean, yes.
Thank you. I didn't even have to convince you to change your mind. That was quick. But
Because I was thinking about food, so when you said that, I'm like,
right. So, but seriously, my point is, when we're angry and we try to figure stuff out or problem solve, it usually doesn't work so well. So my point is, use meditation as a way to set everything down, right? There's a kind of just imagine you have a vase, you got clear water, you got sand, you got rocks, you got pebbles, you pick it up, you start shaking it, right? Everything's all stirred up. You set the vase down, everything settles. Assuming you started with clear water, you're back to clear water. So to me, the mind is to become the clear water. So then when we do make decisions, we're not coming from a place of anger, frustration, hatred. We're settled. So that's how I use meditation. Sit first and then think when you're done. Calm yourself down. The second part around mantra. Yeah, mantra is our beautiful practice, regardless of what you recite. You know, my first teacher always said you could recite the name of the Buddha. Namo Amitofa, for us it was in Mandarin. You could recite the name of Jesus Christ. You could recite the name of Coca-Cola. Meaning what you recite is not what matters. Now, I know that's not true for everybody in every tradition, but what his point was, if you're using a mantra over and over and over again, it's the same idea as using the breath. You're focused on those words. And if you're focused on those words, you're not focused on everything else. But again, meditation to me is not an escape. It's present moment, present time awareness. So yeah, mantras are wonderful practice. Om Mani Padme Hum is a great practice, you know, great compassion mantra of Kuan Yin. A lot of great mantras out there. So yeah. What else? Yeah.
Quickly, how would you identify some of the fundamental differences between Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism?
Yeah, so the question around the difference between Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism. I mean, some of the and you said quickly, some of just the obvious things, like the first thing that comes to my mind truly is Tibetan Buddhism, I think colorful. Zen Buddhism, I think black and white. That's just the first thing that popped into my head when you said that, before you even finished, when you said those two things. And I was like, colorful, right? You see these, well, here's an example. It's funny. You see these first 4 tankas, the art pieces. What do you see? Lots of colors, right? Tibetan, Nepali, they're made in Nepal, but Tibetan Buddhist tankas, right? Look at the third kind of also, but and also really the fourth one, the one in Mandarin that you can't read, Zen, right? Chan practice, Chinese Zen, Japanese Zen. Japan, it's Zen, Chinese is Chan, means meditation. But another way is I think of Tibetan Buddhism as very beautiful, very colorful, very loud, very eccentric, very expressive, very much into guided meditations, imageries like you would have a Tibetan teacher, like an authentic one, not just one you pick up for $20, but a real, authentic, legitimate Tibetan Buddhist teacher, of which there are a few in San Diego. You got to be careful where you go, truly. You've heard me talk about that before. But Tibetan Meditation Center up in Escondido, Lama Samten, who passed away, he built that, ran that for many years. Ani, I think, still there, but there's some really beautiful Tibetan Buddhist nuns up there. So tankas are used as visualization practices, but with a teacher, with someone who can guide you through it. Ultimately, the teachings themselves, they're all coming from the same place. 1,000 years after the Buddha died, Guru Rinpoche, Papa Sambhava, and Mandrava, his consort, they spread Buddhism in Tibet. So it's 1,000 years later. It's Mahayana Buddhism. They practice the Bodhisattva practice. So the teachings in and of themselves aren't so much different, really. I mean, there's variations to them. It's more about in the way it's expressed and practiced. Tibetan Buddhism is very analytical. Zen Buddhism is not, right? Experiential. Tibetan Buddhism they do it's really cool. They'll do debates. And I've never studied or practiced Tibetan Buddhism, so I'm very much on the surface of it. But you'll see debates where they're debating back and forth. You could Google Tibetan Buddhist debate, and you'll see them almost like they're arguing, it's a debate back and forth. They study intensely. I mean, the Tibetan Buddhists know if they're true, they know so much, which is really beautiful. It's an incredible practice for sure. And it's one for years. I've said this for years. I mean, the couple Tibetan Buddhist teachers, Lama Samten passed away a few years ago. Karmalekshi Somo, Tibetan Buddhist nun for 50 years, who taught here for 12, 14 years. She, ultimately retired and she was a professor at USD and moved back to Hawaii. Jampa, who ran the Tibet Gift House, which he passed away a few years ago. It's tough to find.
My aunt was a Tibetan Buddhist for my whole life.
Yeah.
And I was too young when she passed, so I have these huge questions, and I have no way to get the answers. Like,
Yeah.
I know she studied in France, lived in a monastery for 4 years. I know these facts. But I don't know how to put them together.
And we've had her here over the years speak. She's done we've had her here in person, and then she's done a couple talks with some of our smaller groups, the Women's Buddhist Leadership Program. Anyone here know Venerable Robina Corton or seen her? Man, she's like my hero. I mean, I think I have a lot of energy and I'm crazy. She is me like times 1,000, and amazing. She also loves chocolate cake. Who doesn't, right? And she's all over online. I mean, you can YouTube, all her talks are up there. There's a documentary about her, which is incredible. Robina, if you just Googled or put into YouTube or Google Venerable Robina, Robina. Last name is Corton. I think it's either C-O-R or C-O-U-R-T-I-N. Robina Corton. She's amazing. Tibetan Buddhist nun and just like dynamite. So there's a lot of good Tibetan Buddhist stuff out there, but in some books I can tell you, all kinds of stuff. Obviously the Dalai Lama, that's kind of your main go-to. What else? We'll do one more before I close. Yeah.
Is there a goal of attaining enlightenment or Buddhahood from doing practice?
So the question was, is there a goal of attaining enlightenment or Buddhahood from the practice? So for me as a practitioner, I've always, and what I was taught always, was to remove this idea of enlightenment as a goal. Because the Buddha taught very clearly that, as he would said, we're all already enlightened. Look at that. You're already there. Made it easy, right? The idea is that we just are not aware of it. So what was called bodhicitta, or Buddha nature, he said that we all have Buddha nature. And so the metaphor I always use is like on a cloudy day, right? The sun is there. You just can't see it. Why can't you see the sun on a cloudy day? What's in front of the sun? The clouds. The clouds in Buddhist teachings are what's called the three poisons, the second noble truth: greed, anger, and ignorance, our craving, our desire, our attachments, all the things that cause our suffering throughout our day, our discomfort, angst, we don't like this, we don't like that, we don't want this, we don't want that. Those are all of our clouds. So the teaching is not to aspire to awaken or to achieve Buddhahood as if it's some goal that you're trying to go somewhere. The practice is to look within and begin to recognize my greed, my anger, and my ignorance. And as that subsides in parts, which ain't ever happening in this lifetime, but if and when that eventually does, in about 1,000 more lifetimes, then that Buddha nature would shine. In general, I never like to look at anything within Buddhism as goal-oriented, because we've had goals our whole lives. And when we don't achieve our goals, how do we feel?
Meh.
Usually, meh, like a failure. Now, some people are okay with having goals and not reaching them, but very often people come into this practice have spent a lot of their lives not feeling like they're enough. And so if you come into Buddhism and you like set some goal that you have to achieve something, after a year, you're going to be like, well, that didn't work. So I don't like to set goals as Buddhist practice. I've always been taught, don't set goals. Continue to practice each day. And for me, I wake up and think, can I suffer less today, just a little bit, than I did yesterday? That's my practice, but not as a goal. Yeah. Go ahead, and then we'll close. Yeah. Yeah.
Related to maybe the discussion that we've had about, not knowing how to handle, suffering and things that are happening.
Yeah.
So conceptually, I get the message, but at the same time, going through these 4 weeks or 5 weeks of my aunt being diagnosed with cancer, and knowing that I should show up and help and do what I can. I know that's all I can do, but at the same time, not being able to, be still or
Yeah.
observe and not get, caught up or attached to that whole outcome. So,
Yeah.
I guess, do you struggle with, practicing?
Yeah. Absolutely. No. And first and foremost, so the question for those who didn't hear it was, you understand, kind of adding on to the earlier conversation, you understand kind of intellectually, theoretically, not attaching to certain outcomes, and showing up with love and being with things. But as you shared, 4 or 5 weeks ago, your aunt being diagnosed with cancer, like, how do you do that? How do you show up, and do you struggle with it? First and foremost, obviously best to your aunt, and, hopefully it's a healthy journey, as she goes through it. And second, yes, you struggle. I struggle. Anyone who practices is going to struggle. So I think before I even comment on like maybe a few other things, the danger sometimes, the warning, the caution is like, you listen to all this Buddhist stuff, right? It sounds nice, right? I mean, on a good day, I can do like 30% of the stuff I talk about. Seriously. And people are like, no, really. I mean, if you all want to believe different, that's your mess. Get over it, right? Like, seriously, this stuff is so difficult to do. So first and foremost, try not to hear all this stuff or listen to some person up here saying all this stuff and think that like, oh, well, they've done it, or they've figured it out, or the Buddha figured it out, so why can't I? You are human. You have a heart. You love. Your aunt is diagnosed with cancer. That is going to crush you, and it should. Because if it doesn't, then I would be worried. Do you understand? Try not to draw a parallel to, well, I guess I'm just supposed to be okay because Buddhism says be with things as they arise. Yes, be with things as they arise. And part of that means you're crushed, or whatever word you want to use. And that's okay. That's part of it. And once we can embrace that, then we can hopefully show up, like you said, and just be there and show love and compassion and be there in any way you can to help. But we can't fix and heal things or people. Often all we can do is show up and love and prayers and anything else and intentions that we can, and be with that pain and suffering. It's no answer. And I know you didn't really expect an answer necessarily to this, but it's, what I've learned from Zen practice is, you will laugh a lot and you will cry a lot, because that's life. And if anybody tells you differently, that they've attained or achieved, or that Buddhism is beyond that, then they're lying to you. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm going to close on that. We'll join palms. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace and free from suffering. May this merit be transferred to those who need it most. All right, so before y'all head out, our Dharma Bum host Josh has a few announcements for us. Thanks, Josh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh. We opened Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you are done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. And if a few people could stay to close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well, and we hope to see you all again.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.